How are you doing tonight, internets? I hope you're having a wonderful and awesome day. I'm trying out some different audio today, so hopefully that works well for you. Probably be tweaking it over the next couple of days. But it is time to do some daily animation. Time to animate, time to learn more stuff, time to grow as an animator, time to try some new things. So let's get into it. For today, we're going to be looking at slow outs and slow ins. And that was described by Frank and Ollie, two of the awesome nine old men, the founders of animation over at Disney, as follows. As action starts, we have more drawings near the starting pose, one or two in the middle, and more drawings near the next pose. Fewer drawings make the action faster, and more drawings make the action slower. Slow in and slow out soften the action, making it more lifelike. For a gag action, we may omit some slow out or slow ins for shock appeal or the surprise element, and that'll give more snap to the scene. So today, let's see if we can implement a little more of favoring poses and going a little bit at some slow ins and slow outs and try to figure out if we can get a base idea on how that works together. Okay, so again, this is Maya 2010 that we're using, and we are using the Goon rig that is from the How to Cheat in Maya series, which is a wonderful series, and all the information on the programs I use and the rig and all that stuff is down in the comments below. So if you need any of that, go ahead and look there. I'll make sure and I link it, and I'll also link the description from frankandollie.com about slow ins and slow outs. So first off, we're just gonna make our starting pose, gonna get started somewhere, and I figured the best way to look at slow ins and slow outs would be maybe to focus on the sway of the hips back and forth and how we can maybe favor those to hold on the sway outs and then quick back in to hold on those ones, and we can look at how that would work. I hope you're all having a wonderful and awesome and amazing day. Hope you're enjoying this series as we get further and further into it. I think once we're done looking at the 12 principles, I might try doing some different stuff besides just walks. I do like the walk a day series, but I think it'll be fun to look at doing a few other animations. So we might try some of that stuff out. But we might just keep it with walks, even though our definition of walk is really pretty broad, so that it allows us to do a lot of different animation as long as it's kind of focused on how something gets from point A to point B. So again, we're just setting up for our initial first pose. When you're thinking about posing, remember from yesterday we were looking and focusing on solid drawing. And drawing for 3D is just really basically posing, that you want to make sure that you are selling the weight and the volume of your character, that it's an interesting pose, that you're focusing and having a good line of action throughout, that it looks like it's an interesting pose, that you want something that's going to pique someone's interest, or in storytelling poses, looking at what is going to be a good way to grasp the viewer's attention and hold it and make sure that the idea behind what you're doing is easily readable to the audience or whoever it is that you're looking at your shot. Okay, well, I think we got a basic idea down here, because again, I think we're going to be looking at, for our staging today, I think we'll do sort of a back positioning pose here. Make sure we're still recording there, and because we're going to want to focus on the swing of the hips and how we'll kind of sway out and hold that, and then sway back into the other side and hold that a little bit more. So we'll look at the slow ins and slow outs into the next side. But before we get into that, let's just grab everything, and we'll turn off everything except our NURB curves, NURB surfaces, and polygons. And we'll go ahead and select everything and hit S to set a key, and we'll go ahead and save our scene. Okay, and let's just go with this, and we'll lay the foundation for the walk. And go ahead and grab that foot, go to frame 12, and we'll bring it forward from here to there. And again, a good way when you're just laying the foundation is to look at the distance between the ankles. Otherwise, you can look at how the feet are laid out between each other. Sorry, I gotta make sure I'm up near the microphone. I got a new microphone and a new stand. Still making do with kind of what I had to begin with. I used to play in music in a lot of bands, so I had my old microphone still from there. So I went ahead and got a little mixer and seeing if we can work that. Sounded to me from what I could hear, as long as I'm being loud enough and have the microphone close enough, that the audio is going to sound a lot less clunky than the old one did, and hopefully less background noise and everything throughout as well. But that being said, we're just laying the foundation for the walk, so get our steps here. I mean, we'll go back and we'll tweak this stuff and get it really something more. But for right now, this is working. And go to our time slider down here and switch that to 48 frames, because we usually do 2 seconds a day of animation is what our goal is, to continue growing together and learning, do something that is definitely achievable, and set yourself, don't forget, as you're learning everything, to set yourself goals and try to stick to them, so that every day you're growing and getting better and trying to learn more and understand more about this amazing and wonderful illusion of life craft that we're all on the same journey of here as animators and aspiring animators and just beginners and all of that. Okay, so let's see if we got all the steps working. Okay, and now we want to make sure we go back and add a little bit of up and down on the hips. And I want the hips to go up on the passing position and down on the contacts. Let's make sure we're doing that. Okay, now let's grab open the graph editor and go to Window, Animation, Editors, Graph Editor. And we'll look at the Translate Z, make sure we don't have any hiccups in there. And Translate Y. Start off doing the opposite, which is more natural, where the hips go raise up and then down like that. Okay, then we're going to go to the side and we're going to really accentuate the sway of the hips there. And we'll probably tone that down a little bit, but that's okay to over-exaggerate that. Remember when we talked about exaggeration from a couple of days ago? We want to really do that. Okay, now let's go ahead and clean all that up. So I'll go back into the graph editor and grab our Translate Ys. And we are going to have to tone down the Translate Z. It's just too much. Or Translate X that we had there. Side to side sway down. It's just a little too over exaggerated, but that's okay. Like I say, one of the usual tips that I give you guys out there is to don't be afraid to over exaggerate and pull back rather than just inch forward, back and forth for an hour and a half with your animation. Okay, now let's go ahead and add some rotates into this. So rotate over there. Actually, let's try something else. Nah, let's keep it that way for now. Maybe we'll do it just on the butt controller. The butt controller. Okay, let's see how this is looking. A little much, but we'll just go ahead and I do always encourage you guys to get up and you know, act out whatever it is. If you need to film video reference for it, that always is helpful too, to get your timing right and understand everything that's moving in the body and why it moves and how it does. Because there's a lot going on in a walk. They're very difficult to to master. And definitely as a beginning animator as well, to grasp all the different concepts of everything that's going all at once, and what's leading what, and what's following with what, and what raises when and what lowers when. And then you also have to think about, breaking all those rules as well, because just because that's the way, 9 out of 10 people would do it doesn't mean that that's the way everybody does it. So then you have to understand when it's good to break those rules, or when it's good to hold fast to them. So I definitely challenge you guys, if you get the chance, go out to local mall or wherever it is that you tend to find lots of people in your day-to-day life, and just people watch for a while. Bring a sketchbook with you and draw out that stuff. And now we're just rotating to offset that, because in a natural walk, the hips and like the upper torso, chest, offset each other and kind of go back and forth in that way. So we want to make sure we get that in. And now let's go ahead and go back into those curves in the graph editor and make sure that we've got something that's fairly even with them. Another thing that I'm looking to do with the channel fairly soon too is to try out different rigs for these videos as well. So that way not only are we doing a walk every day, but we're trying out different rigs and seeing what the advantages are to different rigs and what we like about them and what we don't like. So if you have rig suggestions, and rigs, if you're not super familiar with the term, the rig is basically like the character. So I know there's a bunch of free ones over on Creative Crash, which is a great site to check out. creativecrash.com, I believe. Just Google it. They have a bunch of free rigs that you can try out over there. So we might add that into our repertoire of things that we try out. Also, going to do a few more of those animation breakdowns, and I think I have a better way to do it than before. So we'll get some shots, and we'll kind of go over how and why they chose the posing that they did, or the timing that they did, or the acting beats they did, and look at that so we can glean some information from that as well. It's something that a group of schoolmates and I used to do, and I really had fun doing it, and I thought it was, even for non-animators, a good look to see like how stuff is done and the why and everything, and it's just real interesting and real fun. So it's definitely something that hopefully will add to the channel as we go forth. Let's add a little more dip to those. And now we're going to go in and we're going to favor some stuff here. Once we get this nailed down, we can kind of talk a little bit more about slow in and slow outs with our walk today, because we'll be favoring the side lean and sway on the hips, and then we'll have a quick move between that once we get it all polished out, and you'll see why that's a fun thing to add to your animation. And again, there's some great guides, and I'll see if I can link to them here. If not, definitely pick up The Illusion of Life, the Animator's Survival Kit, and I like Eric Goldberg's Animation Crash Course, and those all discuss slow in and slow out in a way more in-depth and more experienced way than I can in an hour-long video where we're trying to do a walk as well. Okay, you can start to feel that now a little bit. And what I'm talking about and what the feel is here is that the side sway over here when the hips go holds for a bit, and then it's quick, and then up into the sway over on the other side, and then it holds for a bit, and then it quick goes to the other side, and quick goes to the other side, and quick goes back. So you got a bit more bounciness and a play with the timing, and you'll see the hips with that positioning, they speed in, or they slow and hold on the side sway of the hips, speed out of it and into the next one, and it adds just that little bit of bounce and sway to the hips. Now let's go ahead and accentuate the up and down as well. As well, we'll go ahead and hold those for a little bit more. So right now I'm just adding a couple more keys for the upper position on those, so that not only are we holding the side to side on the hips, we'll hold the up position on the hips as well. That way it's holding, and let's do that for 3 frames. They're holding up, and so. And now you can really feel the hold and the slow in and slow and hold, and then it speeds out and holds and holds and holds, speeds out, holds, 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 speeds out, holds, holds, and back. So you see that it's messing with the timing here. And what they were talking about with keys is that with the slows, the keys are together. So you see like 17, 18, and 19 are held together, and there's a little bit of a key gap, then only 1 frame in between those. That's going to be your quick moves, and then slow back again, and then a quick move, and then slow back again. Okay, now we're just going to go back into the graph editor, and we're going to smooth out these curves and everything too. Because this one's too flat, so that's not going to feel good. And we could talk a lot about the graph editor as well. One of my old mentors, I believe, Victor Navone, great animator. He does a ton of his animation just within the graph editor. Now, that being said, it's not like he doesn't set keys or anything, but he might even go through and like ghost his keys and then go in and just tweak it so you can get that same curve in the graph editor without even having to have a key in there, and it makes his animation really smooth. He used to be at Pixar. I'm not sure if he still is, but he's a great animator and a great guy to check out if you're looking for inspiration or just beautiful animation to watch. Victor Navone, really cool guy. Unfortunately, I didn't get to, because of some real life stuff, I didn't get to be in his class for a super long time. But I learned a ton just in the short time that I was able to study under him, and he's a great guy. Double thumbs up for Victor Navone. Go check out his stuff. Also do a little sway in the hands, I think, too. It would just be fun. Might tone that down a little bit as well. But again, animation's really a playful art form, so. And you feel there's definitely a bouncy and almost a little bit of a jerkiness to the movement, but I think that's fine. It's like boom, boom, one thing I would suggest, and this is kind of just the oddball Casey Turbo's suggestion, is to go ahead and make sound effects while you're animating. It'll help you with your timing. It'll help mix things up a little bit, but I think for myself, when I was learning timing, not only does it help to think of timing in a music fashion as well, and if you've studied music at all, even just from not super, collegiate level, but if you understand that there's different timings in music, there's 3/4, that there's 4/4, all that stuff, that plays into animation as well. What you do your keys on, if you key everything on ones, it's going to be da 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 da. If it's on twos, it's da 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 da, and then in fours, it's da 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 da. And you can play with that so that you can have timing beats where it's 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, and you can add that kind of stuff into your animation as well. It's definitely something that I didn't really understand about timing, and I understood it with timing in music, but I didn't really connect the two, that those could be related into animation as well. So hopefully that's maybe a tip that'll help you with your timing in your shots as well. I feel like I didn't polish out that Y twist. That looks alright. Okay. Excuse me, I got hiccups again today. Now we could take this butt controller and really hold it out there as well. But I think I like that it's working at a different time than the actual hip controller, so it keeps the movement flowing even when the hips are almost a little more static. And it keeps mixing it up a little bit more, but I think one thing we could do is definitely accentuate the movement that we have in that controller as well. I didn't smooth out those curves and kind of balance them, so let's go back into there. And didn't do any rotate Y either, so let's kind of drop the ball on that a little bit. One thing that I've found that I do when I'm doing these videos versus when I'm animating, or maybe just hadn't noticed about it myself when I was animating my own shots without doing a video along with them, is that I tend to get sometimes a little more scatterbrained than I do when I'm just animating for myself, because I'll start talking about a subject and want to really explain it and go into detail on it, and then I'll just go back to my normal workflow and see something and fix it without talking about it or anything too. So let's see. Now, one thing that might be fun too is to dip the butt controller out. So it dips down and pulls up. We'll play with that and see if that helps our animation a little more, but I think we got to figure out which way we want to do that. It's not doing what I wanted to do just yet. Oop, that was not good. I missed a key there. So we'll just go back into the graph editor and we'll adjust all of this stuff here. Got to make sure that I'm speaking loud enough that the microphone will hear me, so apologies if there's any audio that's a little bit quieter than the rest right now. I'm getting used to this new audio setup, and I haven't done a full long video with it yet, except for this one, so I'll kind of experiment with everything here. It's not really getting the desired effect I want. Let's try doing the inverse of that and see if that works, and if not, we might just That's a little more of what I was thinking. If we really play that up. So, yeah, there we go. It's a nice little butt bounce and overlap there. Now, one thing we're going to have to do now that we did that, though, is really avoid, because we've got some separation there. So we want to take our translates, and what we're going to do here is just move everything universally down. So let's see if that worked. And now there's like a little bit of a recoil in the butt as it sways, and I think that will look nice as well. So let's see how that's working. And remember, since we messed with the timing and we added some extra keys in there to favor, there's some extra in-betweens there to favor our key poses, which would be like on the 6 and the 12. We added some here to favor those. It adds that extra bit of snappiness to those in-between beats as well, which we've just accentuated by using that butt controller to flop a little bit more too. Now, one other thing we could try, let's go ahead and save everything here. Let's try doing a little bit of squash and stretch on the, and this is going to be broken here, but I'm not too worried about that since we're going to be pretty much shooting from this angle, and I really like the way that that bounce is feeling, so I'm not going to be too chuffed to go back and make that work like that. But that being said, if this was a production shot, I definitely would make sure that I don't leave that in, that we go through and fix that. But for a quick video, I think that'll work all right. And we're just gonna add some squash and stretch in here on this controller and see if that'll make it feel a little better for us. Just add another level to what we're doing to keep that movement feeling really squishy and bouncy. Sorry, I'm working in the graph editor. Let me pull that up here. I'm just going to minimize some of that we threw on there to start with. Now let's get back into the more of the camera angle that we're going to use, and let's see if that feels... Well, let's try doing the inverse of that, or the reverse of that, and see if that feels cool. No, we want to do it this way. And let's try delaying it a frame. See, now that there feels like there's a little bit of that compress between the chest and the like hips. There's a little bit of that squash and stretch there. I think that'll be nice, and maybe we'll add just a little bit in the ribs as well. It might be over the top. We might just get rid of that, but we'll see. Let's see if that we can get that to look nice. And that's the ribs height, so we'll go in here and go back and balance out our curves. And one thing we haven't done in a little while that I always, one of my first tips or advice that I give anyone who's starting or doing animation is to save often. So just do a quick Control S just in case we lose anything. And let's go ahead and delay that a frame. And let's see how that looks. Okay, we're getting a little bit more of that squash and stretch into there. You know what? Let's go ahead and pull this rotate X back a little bit, just because I don't like how much that breaks right there. Let's try watching that now. I think we might need to tone it down just a little bit. feel like I can feel that now that it's broken for some reason. So maybe what we'll do is do a little bit of rotate X this way, and a little bit of rotate X that way. Okay, we'll just add a little bit of squash and stretch in the hips controller, or compress and release. I don't want to lose what we have right now. I just want to see if we can get it so that it doesn't feel like such a angled move, because if feels like we can really feel that now, even from the camera angle that we were looking at. And sometimes you want to really animate the camera, and if it breaks the rig, that's okay. But if you've gone a little too far, sometimes you just gotta pull it back a little bit. But I don't want to lose that bouncy feeling that we had. I liked that was going on, so let's see if we can't get that working a little better. A little too over the top and too much here, so let's go ahead and pull those down. And remember, this isn't going to be the angle that we end up keeping, so it doesn't have to be that it looks perfect in this angle, but we do want it to feel still natural so that it doesn't feel so unnatural from that other position. Sometimes you can really like something, and it can be really bouncy and full of life and everything, but then you go a little too far and you gotta just harness it back in a little bit. I feel like that's a little less on the chest, even though it still is. Maybe we'll do that. So let's watch and see if that looks alright. Versus what we had before. Too much squash and stretch on that. Is that the waist? Let's see. I do feel like we lost a little bit in the hip, in the butt controller here, but the rest of it's feeling a lot more natural and not too broken. So let's see if we can get a little bit of that back. Go ahead and raise it up just a little bit and lower it down just so we add a little, get the graph editor back up on screen here. Just going to raise up the upper values and lower the other ones and see if that'll give us the same. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. Another way that you can do this is to hit the R key and just middle mouse button, and that will scale that animation a little bit as well. Seeing if maybe a stronger pose would be better, but I think that's about as good as we can get without breaking everything too much. And then one thing we might try as well is to delay the butt about 2 frames. Let's see that. adds a nice little drag to it, but I think that might be a little too much. Maybe just one frame is all we need. So we've got that nice little jerk and bounce to it that we did by mixing up our timing and slowing in and holding our keys there a little bit more, and then doing the quicker timing in between there, and that played that up a little bit. So slow in and slow outs have to do a couple of things. The principle is based on timing and spacing, and it's about having more frames closer together to get to hold that action together. Let's see, let me make sure I'm getting on camera here. So let's say I wanted to do a hand move from here to there, and that's a very, if I had a key here and a key there and just let the computer do it, it would do this pretty even. But if I wanted, the principle of slow in and slow out would be, let's say I wanted to favor this position before it got there, and be like that. So it'd be slow and then go over. So it has to do with timing in the time that it takes, and when spacing is what position it's in at that time. So for doing that, we have, you know, a key here, key here, key here, key here, and then a key there. So you'd be like, oh, maybe that gives you another visual to help you understand that. If not, then you just got to watch me wiggle my hand around for a little bit. And let's get back to our animation. Let's throw a little bit of tilt to the head there. I feel like this is a fun one, and it's definitely getting in some different principles than we have thrown in the other ones. But we got a really bouncy butt in this one, and I think that's a fun idea. Let's take the tilt of the head and we'll delay it one frame. So what we do is we just, we had all those rotate Z's we just did, and that was the tilt of the head side to side. And we'll just take it back and we'll have it one frame behind because I don't want it to hit on. I don't know that I love that. Maybe I need to exaggerate it more, or maybe I need to tone it down more. Let's do a little play and watch here. Let's do a little bit on the head as well and see if that maybe will give us more of what we're looking for. I do like this. It has a nice playthrough for the line of action, so I feel like that's working good for us, working well for us. And I'm really like getting a bit not self-conscious, but a lot more aware of my diction and trying to speak very clearly so that I can make sure that I articulate well the ideas that I want you guys to understand, and that I hope that you're getting and learning from these videos as well. Let's see, does that feel like a little too much in the head? Too much in the head. That is a good band name? No? I don't know. Maybe. Let's delay the head moves 2 frames and let's see. Maybe a little less head animation and a little more neck. So we'll scale that down and we'll scale that up. And like I mention quite often, is that animation is a very playful art form. It's really about experimenting and pushing ideas and pulling back ideas and trying to find something so that in the end it's really, you know, you're doing things that support your main idea. And our main idea for this one was to do something fun with the bat controller, add some bounce to that, and look at mixing up the timing and slowing in and slowing out and vice versa. Okay, now I just feel like there's way too much animation on the head, so I'm just gonna crank everything down a little more. Okay, that feels good. Now one thing we could do now that I really don't like is you've got very static flat hand poses, so let's get in there and let's give us some better hand poses. First of all, the fingers, if wouldn't hang out like that, they'd hang down, so we want to make sure that we give some angle to that. The wrists don't go straight down like that. They always have a little bit more of a hang forward. They don't do a flat 90 degree like that. It just isn't natural. It feels too broken, so you want to have an angle to that. But fingers, gravity would suck them to be more of a 90 degree, not exactly, but more of an angle, so you'd get like this kind of an angle here that you want to make sure that you get throughout. So actually, let's pull those up, that wrist up a little bit. Let's just save what we're doing again, and let's drag those fingers down a little bit. Maybe we'll leave the middle up a little bit, and we'll add a little bit of bend into the mids. And not too much, but maybe just a little bit into the tips. Now we're going to want to hang that thumb down, maybe out a little bit. Maybe give the tip of the thumb a little bit of hang out. And index finger spread a little bit more, and then maybe a little roll to the pinky finger. Maybe a little bit of roll there too. Let's see what that looks like from behind. There's a strange thing with this rig as well. If you bend the tips of the fingers too much, you get a little, it doesn't look as clear, so trying to avoid some of that as well. And that's another thing you have to look out for. Just because a pose might be the more natural pose if it's a human, or if it would be a picture or something, you have to be aware of the rig that you're using. And in order to get that pose, you have to break a rig or make the rig look too funky to get more of a natural pose. Scale it back and just don't push your pose that much. Give it still an appealing pose that rig can do. So that's definitely a good tip to keep in mind as well. And now we're just gonna futz around with this hand a little bit and see if we can get something that feels a little better as well. And then we'll add a little bit of like side to side sway in the fingers there too. And let me know if you guys think that I get a little too over animated in my videos, or if I don't get animated enough, because I can definitely, except for sometimes when I record the videos, I don't want to be too loud for my neighbors next door. But I can definitely, give more examples and do more if that helps you understand concepts better. Just leave me notes in the comments below or anything if you think that I should. Oh, I don't like that facial expression, so let's give him a different facial expression. Even though we're not going to be looking at it sometimes. You just get attached to your idea and stuff, and you want all of it to work together well, so. I think for this one, we would do probably some pouty lips. And maybe the mouth up a little bit. And translate it back a little bit, something like that. And let's raise those lower lids a little bit. And one, I'll not get into that. That'll be for a different video. Oh, okay, well, I already said it anyways, and just going to play with the eyebrows. So one thing that you really want to do in your animation or in your drawing is for a lot and most all of your poses, especially if they have big eyes and they're more cartoonish or anything, still a natural or more believable or more directed pose for your eyes is to always rest the pupils and the iris on an eyelid. It makes them feel like there's a more sense of purpose to them and less of a outer spacey or wide-eyed look or anything like that. If you add so that the lids are like always or almost always touching, so it gives it another sense of another more human quality to it, or realistic quality, because as people, most people, they're not too trying to make sure bright-eyed or anything like that. Their eyelids are always touching, so it's just another thing. But it depends on the rig, like I was talking about earlier. If the rig, the pose you want, and the rig isn't going to allow for that, that's okay too. But it's just a tip. If you can get that into your animation, it's another thing that'll help sell the illusion of life or the believability to it. Maybe we'll do this. We'll dilate the pupils a little bit more. No, it doesn't look good on this rig, I don't think. And if you lower the lids too much, if you're trying to go for angry, sometimes it just comes off looking tired. So that's another thing to keep in mind as well. And another thing is to avoid too much symmetry in everything. So maybe have stuff play off a little bit. At least that's a little better than what we had before. I don't know. This rig is a little funky in the head, I guess would be. But we're looking at it this way anyways. I think there's some other rigs that the face has a little more adaptability to it, so you can get some more intricate facial expressions. Would be I would say a very cordial way to say that. Because I'm not a rigger and a modeler myself, so I don't want to say forever that, or ever put anyone's anyways, I'm going to stop that train of thought there for a second. Okay, now let's add some swing into the wrists and then into the fingers. Okay, so here, rotate there, we'll rotate there. I don't want to do too much because I'd like the focus still to be kind of on the back end. I think that's where the eye should be naturally drawn in, and if we do too much sway in the hands, it won't. So we need to be aware of that. But I think that little bit that we have like that will work okay. So let's go into the graph editor and see if that works. And again, if you think that I should just straight through plow through this stuff and not really describe why I'm thinking what I'm thinking when I'm doing it, or what I'm thinking, or different approaches or anything to it, definitely leave me notes in the comments below. But I know when I was first learning animation, there weren't a lot of guides or tutorials or things like that I could access. So I hope that helps you guys, give you a different resource. And like I said, I'm always open on Twitter or Facebook or here in the comments as well. If you have suggestions or ideas, or you need help with stuff, or you want an extra set of eyes on a shot that you're working at or anything, definitely let me know. And there's a good thing that we learned over at Animation Mentor, which is the school that I went to for animating, and that was that even That sounds bad. Let me rephrase it. Everyone always has something to offer for your creative work, and by that I mean, let's say that you know you're out there and you are one of the best animators that ever lived, and you're just amazing, and you get paid millions of dollars to animate shots and everything. But there's another guy who's had, who just opened Maya and their first day animating, or they're just grabbing a pencil and a box of post-it notes and they're going to start animating or anything, and you show a shot to them and they just don't understand it and they don't get it, and the idea that you're trying to express, isn't coming across, then that's a good bit of notes and stuff for your shot, is that it's not working. It's not giving the idea that you're trying to sell isn't there. Or maybe when they look at it, they see it as, you're trying to do somebody dribbling a basketball and they feel like it's a monster squishing the earth up and down, back and forth, or something, and that it's kind of a wonky idea. But I hope you get what I'm saying, in that it doesn't matter how far you are in your animation or your creative endeavors, you always have something to offer. You always have a unique perspective. So don't be afraid to share it with other people. And as someone, even if you are super far along, as best as you can, try not to get to where you don't want to share your stuff with younger or newer people to the art form, or to elitist or anything too, because there might be things that, even though they're not as proficient in necessarily the same form that you're in, they might have, been a blacksmith, and you're trying to animate a blacksmith thing, and yeah, you're a better animator, but you don't know the intricacies or some nuances or something that a blacksmith might do, and they could add something or help you in that. I don't really know why I went off on that tangent there, but what I mean to say is, anybody out there who's animating or creating that would like a second set of eyes, I'm happy to help. So definitely hit me up, even if you're just starting out and you think, oh, he wouldn't want to look at my stuff, or I just don't have enough self-confidence to ask for help or anything. I mean, don't be afraid to ask or try stuff. And if you're worried, I would never make fun of you or tease you or anything. We all start somewhere, and I'm happy to help. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm just going through and I'm adding some sway to the fingers in here, and I'm trying to mix it up a little bit, so the actual fingers will hit out a couple frames later, but we'll lead that, so we'll move the index spread to start, and the little spread will follow, so that way there's a definite change of shape throughout the hand, and it's not too uniform of just this way, but we'll see some change in the fingers. But again, we want to make sure that we're not making that the focus. One thing I might do as well here is we'll play with the timing of everything on this arm, and we'll just adjust it forward 1 frame, just so that it's not hitting at the same time that other arm is. The only thing is, I feel like it could go in more on this frame here. Those could be in a little bit more. Okay, let's try watching that now. Maybe we we could even delay this one frame behind, and then it'll give us 2 frames difference between the 2 arms, and that should give us a little bit more variation between everything. Now I feel like it's too quick into that position and not enough out on that one, so I'll raise up that a little bit more and see if that helps. I just want to make sure that we're not doing it all on the same frame. I do feel like this arm is now the center of attention though, so I might need to tone that movement down a little bit. Let's try watching it again. I feel like those arms are going to draw a little more attention than I want them to, so I'll just tone them down a little bit. So let's see. I do feel like we need to mix up the finger animation a little bit more on this hand, and I'll show you why. Let's watch it again. You notice this one has a lot more change of shape between it, where the grouping of the fingers is a lot more varied. You'll see there's, but on this screen left hand that we have here, feels like it's very similar grouping and there's not much into it. And again, we gotta just be careful that we're not over exaggerating it so much that it becomes the focus of our shot, but feels a little too static. I feel like I use that word a little more than I do in the rest of my life when I do these videos. Then it's not too flat or too dull, I guess would be another good. And let's go ahead and exaggerate the index spread as well. The only problem that I see now with that is just that like the middle and ring seem to be moving together as a unit, so maybe if we can break that up a little bit. Maybe we'll over exaggerate the spread on that little pinky as well. And again, we are talking about this screen left hand to us right now. But since we added those extra holds and the timing, we mixed it up and we slowed and favored the movements on the hips. You can feel that throughout the rest of the body as well. So even though we're not doing as much in the hands and the arms to show that slow in and slow out, because the hips are doing it, it forces the rest of the body to favor that a little bit more as well. So if you really can get the hips working well and the chest and everything, and you have the arms not in IK? I get the two mixed up all the time. Yeah, if you have the arms and legs in FK, then that stuff is going to be felt throughout without, and that'll help you, give you half of the animation, or at least a good starting point from the animation before you even get there. So I'm going to save off what we have again, and let's do a little bit of work in the thumbs. So look at this hand here, and since that hand just went out, the thumb is going to probably be dragging back, so we're going to want to drag that back and then go out to 24, and it'll have swung out by that time. It'll be dragging back, and it'll swing out, and let's see how that looks. So now you can see there's a little bit of different timing variation there. And there's a nice bit of bounce and a little bit of jerk to this walk, which I think works well for the idea that we're going with. And then you got that overlap on the butt controller where it goes there, so I think that works working well. The only thing I really think we could play with, but I think I'm all right with, is really just toning down these arms a lot, because I feel like they are fighting for attention with the walk. But I think they also help with the idea as well, so I think we're gonna leave them as what they are. Also, so that we don't do another 2-hour-long video like the other day. Which sometimes, you know, if the idea isn't working, don't be afraid to continue pushing it and continue tweaking it, delete animation, add different ideas. But for the sake of getting a video out every day that maybe you can learn some ideas or get inspired, or just, you know, get creative with, gotta kind of be a little careful of that as well. One thing that I'll probably end up... Oh, we haven't done anything on this one, so let's get into the thumb on this one. And it'll be dragging that way, so we'll want to hang it out, right? This one should be dragging in more. Let's try to watch it now. Just trying to figure out a good way if we want to over-exaggerate that or under-exaggerate. It feels like it's working for half of it. That's good enough. I don't feel like I want that to be the focus of the attention, so I'm okay with it being like not as exaggerated as it could be. And then we're just going to do 1 frame later and 1 frame later on the mid and the tip controllers as well. So let's watch that. I feel like there's not enough mid and tip and too much just on the thumb itself. So let's go ahead and pull that in a little bit. Let's try watching that now, see if that's a little better. Okay, the only thing like here is it doesn't seem to curl in enough that I want it to. Still want it to be a nice frame. I feel like that's kind of a dopey thumb. So see if we can find a better ending pose there. But I still want the movement to work. Yeah, I'm just gonna, just for the sake of, it doesn't need to have that much movement in that thumb, so let's watch it again. let's try watching it now. There we go. That feels like that's finally working a little bit. Okay. Go ahead and save that off. Now let's just go ahead and make sure we got enough movement in these feet, especially from this angle. So let's go and do the translate Y. We're going to grab both of them and make sure that we've got pretty balanced steps here. And by balanced, I don't mean that the weight is right, because I feel like we have sold that in the hips, but I mean that there's kind of an evenness to the steps and that there isn't too much variation between left foot versus right foot on here. Which sometimes you might want to do that in a walk that you're working on. But for this one, I think we're going to have a little more of evenness to them. And I think we need to exaggerate from what we have a little bit more. So let's go ahead and just watch that. And you know what, one thing we might do as well? Let's take all the up positions and just delay them one frame. Let's see. Just since we're playing around with timing and everything in here. Okay, and let's exaggerate them a little bit more. So let's take that translate Y, and we'll kick that up a little bit more. And since that's up more, we can put some more rotate and drag on the heel as well. So let's turn that up and let's watch it. Okay, now that that's working all right, let's go ahead and drag the toe back, lift it up as it contacts, and flop it down. That way we get a little bit of overlap in the foot. And we'll go and set that, and drag it back, lift it up as it contacts, and land it down. Now let's go into the other foot, and we'll do pretty much the same thing. Drag it back on there, lift it up on the contact position, and then flop it down 2 frames after. 2 frames is definitely something that you can feel and see a little bit. 1 frame is going to be pretty quick and hard. Maybe we can do a little more on those toe flops. Since we're doing, our camera angle is behind our character, I feel like we could exaggerate those a little bit more in order to get that desired effect, whereas if it was a side view, I don't think we'd need to exaggerate it as much. So let's go ahead and watch it now. Okay, that way you can feel it. Okay, we can save that off. We're getting pretty close to calling it a walk. One thing that I was thinking we might do is add a little bit of dip in the shoulder. So we'll just try that. If that doesn't work, that's okay. We'll go ahead and delete it. We'll dip down and raise up. Dip down and raise up. Just another way to accentuate that squash and stretch that we have on those positions. And the drag throughout the body. So raise them up, drag them down, raise them up, drag them down, and we'll probably go ahead and move all this movement 1 frame forward, so that way it kind of leads the arm as well. But we might have made everything too busy. But now you can see there's that kind of dip throughout the arms as well, and the shoulders, and it extends into the arms and the hands as well. So let's go ahead and take all of that, and we'll move it one frame forward, and we'll go ahead and watch it and see if that... Now there's a little more bounce in those shoulders as well. And I do like it, but I think we can tone it down a bit. I don't think it needs to be as extreme as it is. At least even out the movement as well. So I'll just go into the graph editor, and first we'll balance out so that all of the movement feels pretty uniform. And again, depending on what kind of walk you want, sometimes you want everything to be more uniform and sometimes you don't. Also depending on which part of the walk you want to exaggerate, you might make some movements a little more uniform so that the eye won't naturally go to that area. Whereas in other places you'll want to make them more exaggerated. Okay, now we're going to do that tip that I showed you before. We'll just grab everything, hit the R key, and we're going to scrunch it down a little bit. Okay, now let's go ahead and watch that again. Okay, I feel like that's enough bounce, but not too much that it's going to be. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop that. I'm going to save everything we have. We'll turn off that mesh on the ground there. And we'll go under show and turn off NURB curves. And then we're going to grab the manipulators that we have left over that don't get hidden by that. And we're going to create a new layer with those selected and turn the visibility off. And now let's watch it a couple times and make sure that everything's working there. Alright, I feel like that was turned out alright. Not too bad, especially for an hour getting into Maya. So thanks for everybody for watching. I hope you learned some stuff here, or at least get inspired to go try out some new ideas in your own work. Keep in mind the slow in and slow out principle, and you can actually even add that into your drawings as well, and more in the aspect of what you really want to play up and exaggerate versus what you want to tone down. So if you're doing like a model who's got, you know, this awesome armed out stretch pose, the other one might be more subtle and built into the silhouette of the body or something like that, where you can kind of slow in the movement and then make your extreme out here and kind of look at the flow of the movement that way. And that'll add another level up to the drawings that you're doing or something like that. Just try to get this principle applicable to a lot of different areas of creativity beyond just animation as well. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you like these videos. If you do, remember, give me some thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. If you think that there's things that I could work on or things that I could do better, definitely leave me comments down below. If there's things that you really like that I should do more of, let me know as well. I hope you all have a wonderful and awesome and amazing and epic day. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Alright, love ya. And we will see you for some more animation.